Hello everybody and welcome! This video is not like my others and some of you might be surprised of what you will learn in it, so please watch until the end. If you are an experienced Kerbal Space Program player, you have already experimented with mods. One of the mods that people repeatedly have suggested to me is BD Armory. True to its name, it adds weapons to the game, enabling you to fire upon and destroy other vehicles or the few buildings that exist in the game. And yes, while I understand that it might be fun to revel in wanton destruction, I have stated before in comments and am now stating here that I will not implement weapons in my design, nor will I highlight them in videos. There are a few reasons for this. Basically, I see KSP as one of the few entirely pacifistic and non-violent exceptions in the video game landscape. Usually, a game involves the player defeating an antagonist, from jumping on an overgrown, fire-breathing, spiky turtle in Super Mario to raining down ultra-violent judgment onto demons in Doom. There is always something you have to fight against. KSP, in its essence, teaches us not to defeat something, but to learn about the universe, understand it, and work around the limitations it imposes upon us. In essence, aside from all the space stuff, KSP is a game of discovery. Now, why am I not willing to introduce weapons into this game? I believe that weapons would completely distract from this journey of discovery. There are enough space games out there where you can blow stuff up. Also, the only thing you can blow up in KSP are either your own buildings or your own vehicles or those of friends if you're using a multiplayer mod. Here is where the history part comes in. Did you know that an American city was bombed from airplanes almost 100 years ago and parts of it were completely destroyed? I learned about this accidentally watching a TV show of all things, namely HBO's Watchmen, which I quite enjoyed by the way. One key event of the story is the Tulsa massacre. Since the show takes place in an alternate universe, I first thought that this was a fictional event, written to demonstrate what extreme hatred and racism can lead to. I was shocked to find out that it was in fact based in real US history. Greenwood, the predominantly black part of the city of Tulsa, Oklahoma, had reached unusual prosperity for a black community of that time. Black people owned their businesses and were able to generate their own wealth, which led to the phrase Black Wall Street describing this part of town. However, racial tensions rose until they exploded at the end of May 1921, after an incident in an elevator involving a 17-year-old white girl and a 19-year-old black boy. To this day, nobody really knows what exactly happened. The girl even didn't want to press charges, but the boy being detained by police and the fear of him being lynched by a white mob, which was still a very real possibility in 1921, was enough for armed black men to go to the courthouse in order to keep the young man safe. Suffice to say, this ignited a powder keg, resulting in a white mob rushing into Greenwood, brutally attacking black residents and destroying shops and residential buildings. Eyewitness accounts describe airplanes above the city dropping firebombs onto buildings and onto the streets. As far as I could research, this was the first time an aerial attack was conducted on the continental United States, and it was not perpetrated by a foreign military, but by white supremacists against black citizens. Through the bombing and the attacks on the ground, 1,256 houses, 191 businesses, a school, multiple churches, and the district's only hospital were destroyed. White looters plundered homes and continued the killing until the National Guard was brought in. It is estimated that between 100 and 300 people were killed during the massacre, 10,000 were made homeless. One thing the show Watchmen starkly differs from reality is reparations. The Tulsa Race Massacre Commission in its report in 2001 recommended reparations to the survivors of the massacre and its descendants. Up until now, nothing of the kind has happened. To compare this, it took 55 years until my home country Austria acknowledged its responsibility during World War II and paid €352.6 million to about 132,000 people who had suffered in labor and concentration camps on its soil. It is now almost exactly 99 years since the Tulsa massacre happened and still no reparations were paid. Yes, there were symbolic gestures and a few hundred college scholarships, But from the viewpoint of someone living in the country that had to take a long, hard, and uncomfortable look at its own history, this seems a bit shallow compared to the damage that was inflicted. How are you supposed to rebuild with nothing? Austria was able to repair the damage done during World War II and thanks to money from the same allies that bombed it. Black Wall Street was gone, along with the prosperity of the black community in Tulsa, and was never able to recover. Why was the United States willing to support us Europeans, but not part of its own citizens? You might have seen this video in which Kimberly Jones gives a truly moving speech about the situation of black people in America and what led to it.
You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us.
When she mentioned Tulsa, I knew what she was talking about. But if I hadn't seen Watchmen, I would have had no idea. I thought to myself after watching her video, how many people got the reference? How many Americans know what happened in Tulsa? How many outside of the US? Be honest, how many of you who are watching this video right now knew about the Tulsa massacre before hearing it mentioned in Kimberly's speech or in my video? Because what I've heard, this blemish on US history is not widely taught in schools, not even in the state of Oklahoma where it occurred. The rise of fascism, its instrumentalization of race, and the terrible crimes that resulted of it make up a big portion of history classes in Europe. It is sometimes debated whether or not we spend too much time teaching that period to our children, but not teaching it at all, letting part of the population be oblivious to the atrocities committed in the name of a superior race, would be catastrophic, because, as the American philosopher George Santayana said, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And history is not only written by the victors, but also by the survivors. It's just harder to find, so it's harder to learn about those parts of history. If you're interested, I'll post links in the video description for information on the Tulsa massacre if you want to learn more about it. In Kerbal Space Program, when you destroy your own buildings, be it accidentally or on purpose, you can just click a button and restore them. Reality, of course, is much less forgiving. But the place where you live should be the place where you can feel safe. The place where you can go out on the street and not have to fear for your life. That's why Black Lives Matter. It was true 100 years ago for the residents of Tulsa, and it is still true today for George Floyd, for Breonna Taylor, and for all the other victims of racial violence. Because for them, the place they called home did not offer them the comfort it should have provided. And this needs to change. I don't have a fundraiser I can put in this video because this feature is not yet rolled out to my channel. But I encourage you to seek out a cause you deem worthy and donate, for instance to the ACLU, who are doing important work. If you are eligible, go out and vote. The way we treat people, especially those that don't fit the mold, needs to change, not just in the US, but around the world. We need to stop elevating one part of our society above another one if we ever want to have true equality. As I said in the beginning, Kerbal Space Program teaches us to learn more about the universe. Sometimes learning about one thing leads to unexpected discoveries about other things. But in order to be able to learn, all of us need to keep our minds open. It is the only way to evolve. Even if it hurts. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to my channel for more and follow me on my social thingies. The links are in the description. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.